Hello guys, I have always been against smoking, but I feel like I'm ready to change my opinion, at least about this smoking epidemic inside the Russian Federation. Someone always smokes next to their important military objects, which leads to fires, explosions and destructions, and is actually perfectly in line with our Ukrainian strategy to demilitarize Russia. I do not smoke, but I am ready to smoke in the Kremlin. And tonight, fire destroyed a big ammunition depot of Shahed drones in Alabuga, Tatarstan. It cost Russia $16 million. $16 million in just a blink of an eye. And more Russian soldiers realize that no, not everything goes according to the plan. And actually, many of them destroy military speedboats because they disagree to start a new attack across Dnipro River next to Kherson. They realize that's a dead end for them. And I hope more and more Russian soldiers will share this opinion, especially when they witness how Russian army cannot save its equipment and even its people from Syria. Recently, Russia has sent a cargo ship, Sparta, to take some of their soldiers and equipment from Syrian military bases, but the ship broke somewhere in the Mediterranean and now drifts near Portugal. So let's discuss how all of this demilitarization of Russia speeds up in 2024. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the collapse of the Kremlin and protect yourself against the hybrid warfare, subscribe. We discuss all of that on the channel. And let's start with my favorite, our geography lesson, because today a serious fire neutralized a big drone ammunition depot in Alabuga, Tatarstan. It was full of various expensive details like engines, like cameras, like navigation devices, which are necessary for the quality of work of Shahed 136 drones. They construct them in Tatarstan, and at least 400 were neutralized in this really big fire. We don't know what was the reason for this fire, but perhaps it was, I don't know, a God's punishment just before Christmas, or someone smoked. Tatarstan is an illustration why it is so important to support nations in their desire to leave the Russian Federation. In 1990s, they tried to proclaim their independence. They had a president and people supported their idea. But Kremlin and later Putin did everything to destroy the possibility of independence of this People's Republic inside the Russian Federation, and instead brought lots of military organizations, lots of military companies and bases to Tatarstan. First of all, to produce drones and other stuff there, but secondly, perhaps to influence Tatarstan, to threaten Tatarstan, to some extent. So anyway, the destruction of these drone facilities is a beautiful message that Russia can be defeated, and not just Ukraine, but other nations can be liberated. Just as it happened in Syria. I am sure, the majority of us did not believe that the Assad's regime can fall, especially in this context, but it happened in a couple of days. And his friend Putin did not manage to back up Assad because he ran out of people, money, power, and influence. And right now, what Russia does, it escapes from Syria. It runs away from its military bases, losing control not over just territory of Syria, but a very big zone in the Middle East and Africa, which is actually beautiful. And these military bases, naval bases, aviation bases that they had there were very important for Russians, especially when they try to support the myth of this geopolitical dominance. And now they leave these bases. Subscribe to see more of the Russian failures in 2025. And please share these videos on your social media platforms. That's important. And right now, I find it beautiful. Russia sent a cargo ship Sparta to save its soldiers and equipment from military bases in Syria, to pack it all and escape back to Russia. But the ship broke somewhere in the Mediterranean and now drifts next to Portugal. And there is nothing the sailors can do. And Moscow warship cannot come and help because it was upgraded to the underwater submarine. So this is an illustration of Russia's weakness and, most importantly, inability to protect not just its interest geopolitical, but also its people on its military bases, which Russia no more controls. And this is very beautiful. But even more important are the reports that come from Crimea, near Kherson region too. These are reports of a very important Atesh movement. These are partisans who fight against the Russian occupation on the temporarily occupied territories of Crimea, Ukrainian regions, and inside Russia. They are mainly made of Crimean Tatars and Ukrainian people, but maybe some good Russians also there. And this Atesh often reports about the location of Russian military bases, their logistics, the movements of their troops, and the problems that they encounter. And recently they have reported that more and more Russian soldiers disagree to follow the orders of their military commanders, especially next to Kherson and in Crimea. The plan was to attack Ukraine again, to cross Dnipro River from the left bank, and to try to get Kherson again. You know, Kherson was the only regional center that Russia managed to occupy since the start of the full-scale invasion in 2022, but then it was liberated, and it is actually an epic fail of Putin's blitzkrieg. And now, taking this break in global politics, Putin tries to use the opportunity and maybe to try and get more around Kherson or in Kherson. Unfortunately, the city is constantly shelled and attacked by drones. You know, Russian soldiers illustrate their criminal nature by hunting people, civilian people in Kherson with drones, and now they wanted to organize a new attack across the Dnipro River. But even very limited in their cognitive abilities, soldiers realize that it's a dead end for them. It's a meat grinder, and they disagree following this obeys, these orders. And it is actually a serious problem for Putin's regime in general if it continues in other units, in other locations. But here in Crimea and near Kherson, what they do is actually beautiful, because not only they disagree, but they also destroy Russian military speedboats. And you know why? To tell they don't have anything they can use for this attack, because they realize they will be neutralized by the Ukrainian defenders, and they start destroying their own equipment, their own speedboats, while still on the Russian side. And this is a very vivid illustration that if Russian population really wanted to stop this war, they have a lot of instruments to do so. And I hope this epidemic of smoking and this epidemic of fear and destruction of military ammunition will continue in Russia. This seems like a good plan for 2025. Please share these videos on your social media platforms. Unfortunately, there are too many Russian voices and too few Ukrainian. Share and subscribe on my Instagram pages, on my X, Discord, and Blue Sky. Check our merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my sponsors and patrons of the channel. That's an honor, and I'm really grateful to feel your support, trust, and motivation that you give me. But most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine and all freedom-loving people. Slava Ukraini!